You're live, Don.
Good evening. Welcome to the July 8th meeting of the Parks and Community Service Commission. I call this meeting to order. Madam Clerk, can you lead us in the pledge?
Actually, before we do the pledge, how about if we read the statement for roll call?
Okay.
So before I call roll, I would like to make an announcement to the committee regarding the teleconferencing of this meeting. Prior to roll call, I would like to make it clear for the record of this meeting, and it should be reflected in the minutes, that the governor has issued 2 executive orders relaxing the requirements pertaining to remote meetings under the Brown Act. To facilitate social distancing and to slow the spread of the coronavirus pandemic, the executive orders authorize state and local legislative bodies, including this committee, to hold public meetings by teleconference more easily. These provisions will remain in effect during the period in which state and local health officials have imposed or recommend social distancing measures. The order allows the committee to proceed with its members participating electronically or telephonically. Committee members are no longer required to be physically present in the meeting in order to participate or to establish a quorum. The agency must provide a means for the public to observe the meeting and to provide the public an opportunity to comment electronically or telephonically. The opportunities for public observation and participation must be and have been included in the meeting notice. The procedures adopted for this meeting have been established and meet or exceed the standards set forth in the order. For more information, please refer to Governor Gavin Newsom's Executive Order N-25-20. I will now take roll, after which I ask the chair to recognize me in order to confirm certain matters for the record. Commissioner Dorlick? Commissioner Dorlick, you're muted.
Yep, there we go. Here.
Commissioner Lopez Lucy?
Here.
Commissioner Oslin?
Present.
Commissioner Roberts?
Here.
Vice Chair Veros?
Present.
Chair Birnbaum?
Present.
Thank you. I have 3 questions I would like to ask the committee members. I'll ask these 3 questions, and if the answer is yes to all 3 questions, please say yes and raise your hand. Question number 1, can you hear me well?
Yes.
Yes.
Question 2, have you been able to hear all previous speakers, including the roll call, clearly?
Yes.
Question 3, are you satisfied based on facial or voice recognition or otherwise that everyone here representing themselves to be a committee member is actually the person they are representing themselves to be?
Yes.
The record should reflect that I have received affirmative answers from each committee member present to all 3 questions. And finally, I would like to advise the committee that any votes taken during this meeting must be taken by roll call. Now we may do the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic
which stands
one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice
for all. Thank you. So item 3, special items and announcements. Item 3.1, changes and additions to the agenda. Madam Clerk.
No, we do not have any changes.
Item 3.2, do you want to read that or do you want me to read that?
Sure. Item 3.2, if you wish to speak under public comment or regarding an agenda item, please click the raise your hand button on your computer or *9 on your telephone to request to speak when public comment is being taken on the agenda item. You will then be unmuted when it is your turn to make your comment for up to 3 minutes. After the allotted time, you will then be remuted.
Okay. Item 3.3, temporary employee of the month. And Andrew is going to do the presentation.
Thank you, Commission. Do we have Brittany Hibbert on the call right now?
Yes,
Brittany,
hi
are you here?
guys.
There she is.
Hi.
So I'm going to introduce Brittany. The City of San Ramon Parks and Community Services Department would like to congratulate Brittany Hibbert for being chosen as the June Temporary Employee of the Month. Brittany began working with the department in 2018 as a recreation leader with Camp Central programs. Brittany has worked with our Little Dribblers and also at Camp Central. Brittany is a San Ramon resident who recently graduated from Valley Christian High School, and in the fall plans to attend Elmhurst University in Chicago, where she'll also play basketball on the university's team. Brittany is being recognized this evening for her hard work and dedication to Adventure Club summer camps. Amidst all of the challenges of COVID-19, due to COVID-19, there's been an enhanced need for cleaning procedures routinely and effectively. Brittany has been instrumental in assisting with us with making sure that the camps are both clean and safe for campers. Her positive attitude and upbeat personality are contagious, in turn, making her fellow staff members more positive and productive at camp. Not only is she helpful and a great team player, she is also wonderful with the campers. Brittany can make even the most shy camper feel welcomed, especially on day one. Brittany is a great example of the staff we hire who are adaptable, dedicated, and professional. Thank you, Brittany, for everything that you've done at camp this summer.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate this award and this recognition. I love working here. And this will be my third year here, and I plan to come back next summer. And I just can't wait to grow. I grow every day when I'm here. I always learn something new. So I really appreciate this honor. So thank you.
Well, congratulations and thank you for, the 3 years of service that you put in. This year, especially, is a challenging year. But I would imagine the kids are probably a little more excited than they might have been in years past, simply because
Yeah.
they're able to get out and see their friends. So thank you and best of luck, in your college career, because that sounds like an exciting adventure that you're headed off to.
Thank you so much. I can't wait to start. It's going to be so much fun.
So normally we give you a certificate, and normally we give you some little tchotchke item. So I would assume that will be taken care of by our capable support staff. Again, thank you so much, and we look forward to seeing you hopefully next year.
Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate it.
All right, we're going to move on to item 3.4, special announcements.
I do have a few special announcements for you this evening. So I think most of you know, but the master plan was approved by the City Council at their last meeting in June. Christy is mailing you each a copy of the beautiful approved plan. There you go, hard to see with the background. So at this point in time, staff will now be working on a marketing campaign that we're going to plan to launch in the fall with PowerPoint presentations out to community groups and a big push out to the community to let them know what's in the plan and what they can expect to start seeing as we move forward. And then we'll also be kicking off in the fall with the CIP process again. So that will be a perfect time for us to use the master plan to actually evaluate some of those projects. In addition,
hey, Kathy, there was a discussion during the process that you guys were going to put together like a one-page bullet thing to remind everybody of what the key things are. Are we going to still do that?
Yes, we are still doing that. In fact,
Great.
Design Workshop is still kind of on the hook to do that for us. That's the last piece of the puzzle they have to do is our little at a glance. So yes, that will still be part of it, and we'll make sure to get you all a copy.
Thank you.
You're welcome. In addition, it's just kind of the way timing all worked out. I'm sure you all remember the Prop 68 per capita grant that cities would automatically get some funds for. Well, that's finally come back around. They have finally released the information. And so staff will be attending workshops, which I don't have the dates for yet, but to get those funds. And so that can also be fed into part of our discussion as we move into the fall. So there's even a little bit of a little pot of money that will have something we can use it for that we'll be discussing in the future. And then I'll also be reaching out to you all probably for a late July, early August workshop. so we can talk about the San Ramon Nature Park Foundation MOU. So because I know it's a popular vacation time, if you're planning any big week-long vacations in that last couple of weeks of July, beginning of August, if you could let Christy know, I would appreciate it. That way we will aim for dates that you're not out for the whole week. And that's just kind of a heads up that we'll be trying to set up a special workshop on that. And then I don't know if you all know, but July is Parks Make Life Better Month. And so to that end, we're going to be having a proclamation at the City Council meeting next Tuesday night. And staff have partnered again with California Park and Rec Society to set up the Agents of Discovery app. If you remember last year, we had that app set up in Central Park. So you could download it on your phone and then go around and find like an online scavenger hunt, much like Pokemon. Well, this year they've set the app up at Forest Home Farms and the Rancho San Ramon Park. So 2 more parks, 2 more adventures. So get out there and get your app and go try and find the things that they've set up. We have a little competition with our other local Bay Area cities to see who can get the most people to participate. So this would be a great opportunity. You could be socially distanced and you can have a little fun. And then finally, if you didn't notice, as you on our social media posts, we now have a wish tree in San Ramon. And so it's located right in front of City Hall. And it's just an opportunity for people to put their wishes for the world, the community themselves, onto the tree. So kids, adults, everyone, it's a great opportunity to add your wish to our tree. You'll see that in the rec report at the end as well with a little more background, but I just wanted to draw your attention to it so you make sure you make time to stop by and participate. That's it for now.
Okay. Well, drum roll, we're moving into 3.5, the elections of the new officers for the 2020-2021 commission. And I will open the floor for candidates for the chair position. So does anybody want to nominate somebody?
Well, I could go ahead. Go ahead, Commissioner Osland, if you were going to say something.
Well, I was going to nominate Carol Lopez Lucy for the chair position.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Yes, I'll second that.
Okay. Do we have any other nominations?
I was going to nominate our vice chair, Mr. Sridhar Morose, for that position.
Okay. Do we have a second? I'll second it. So we now have any other individuals interested in putting a candidate up? So we have 2 candidates. Do we have any discussions that we want to have? Okay, no discussions. So let's, how do we want to go about this? Do we want to vote for all those in favor?
Yeah,
What?
I think you would need to vote. You'd need to handle each one separately to start with. So
Okay. All those in favor of Commissioner Lopez Lucy?
we'll have to do a voice vote, I believe.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
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 Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure if Christy caught that because normally you'd have to say the name of the person. Christy, they were just raising their hand. Do you want to do a roll call vote?
Yeah, so for Carol, Commissioner
Will Dorland.
Dorland,
Yes. Yes.
Commissioner Lopez Lucy,
Yes.
Commissioner Osland,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts,
Abstain, I guess. I can't vote twice, right?
Vice Chair Veros,
Yes. So,
Chair Byrne.
for,
What's
just
that?
to make sure.
Was that yes for
Clarification.
you?
So because as a candidate myself, so
Do you abstain?
again, so, oh, yeah, it's abstain then.
That's abstain, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Chair Birnbaum?
I'll abstain too.
Okay, now a roll call vote for Shadar. Commissioner Dorlick,
I already voted. No.
Commissioner Lopez Lucy,
No. I guess.
Commissioner Osland,
No.
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Vice Chair Veros,
Yes.
Chair Birnbaum.
Yes. So now we're in a pickle.
Yeah, 3-3.
And unfortunately, we don't have that seventh commissioner.
Well, I suggest that Carol and Sridhar do rock, scissors, paper, and 2 out of 3 takes it.
Well,
Go ahead.
we do have a chair position and a vice chair position that will need to be filled this evening, so there could be some logic there. Otherwise, it really is an election of this group at this point. So we would need to either work out a tiebreaker at this point or wait until we have a seventh commissioner and revisit the election.
Can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
Okay. Since Sridhar was vice chair, perhaps if Commissioner Lopez Lucy would assume the vice chair position and Commissioner Veros would take the chair position.
That would be fine with me.
So I see some head nods. So should we do the vote over again?
Or you could also go to a new motion.
Yeah, so I'll move that Commissioner Veros would assume the chair position. Commissioner Lopez Lucy would assume the vice chair position for the 2020-2021 fiscal year.
Okay, but we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
We have a second. Do we have any further discussion? Then let's move to a voice vote.
Commissioner, on choosing Commissioner Veros for chair and Commissioner Lopez Lucy for vice chair, Commissioner Dorlick,
Yes.
Commissioner Lopez Lucy,
Yes.
Commissioner Osland,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Vice Chair Veros,
Yes.
Chair Birnbaum.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Great.
So Commissioner Veros, congratulations. You are the chairperson. You get to run the meeting now. Because I'm done.
So now you need to go over to Don's house and assume that chair right there. So we'll take a 20-minute break.
No pressure, 20 minutes, run there. Yeah, thanks everyone for giving me this chance, and it's definitely a great privilege. So Kathy, just to make sure, so should I let first the commissioners speak about chair or like our current like?
I think since the next thing on the agenda is the recognition of our outgoing chairperson, Dawn Birnbaum, we could go ahead and let Christy maybe share her screen and show off the beautiful plaque that will be delivered directly to Dawn's home. There we go. We can all ooh and ah a little bit over that.
Thank you.
Then Sridhar, any words that you want to say or that you want to allow the commissioners to, the rest of the commissioners to say, this would be the appropriate time.
Okay, thank you. So definitely, like Commissioner Birnbaum, it is my privilege and honor to be as part of your team while you're chair of this commission. Thank you for providing all your leadership, especially like last year, whole year we were working pretty hard on the master plan update, and you were the shape that period, as well as one of the most challenging community issue during the Merged and Crow Canyon Gardens hearing. It's phenomenal. At one point, I just felt like without your leadership during that time, you would have been definitely in a lot of without guidance and all that, we would have been in a lot of mess at something. But you stepped up and you have certainly raised the bar to be a commission chair. I'm sure with your guidance and support, I'll work hard to continue to deliver the quality that you have set for us for our commission. So thank you very much for being with us and helping us as a chair. Thanks. So with that, I'll let other commissioners to speak. So let me see.
I'd like to thank Commissioner Beerbohm. I think you've done an excellent and outstanding job, and you've really investigated things and worked well with the staff and with us, and your leadership is really exceptional. So I thank you for your leadership and being a fellow commissioner. It's great to work with you.
Commissioner Doran.
Oh, thank you. Hey, Don, it was great working with you together. When I was chair and you were vice chair, it was great collaboration and support. And I appreciate the leadership you've shown, especially with all the questions, all your comments. It's clear that you take this position seriously and that you bring a critical eye to the process. So very much appreciate working with you and look forward to continuing our relationship on the commission.
Commissioner Roberts.
Yes, I would just like to say, a big thank you, Commissioner, or former Commissioner, or Chair Birdbaum. Don, I'd like to just say, the last year, it's been about a year now that I've been on this commission. And, you're just to be able to look up to you, your leadership, the sincere questions that you ask, and how serious you take this position. I really had someone to look up to and to learn from. So I really appreciate that. And I look forward to continue working with you on this commission. So thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Commissioner Osman.
Commissioner Birnbaum, Chair, you have been awesome. And for the 1 year in this seat, you have taught me so much. And you have really, you just really helped me understand our role here on the commission. You're very thoughtful with your feedback and your comments. And you're very fair too. And that's one thing that I've really admired about your leadership. So thank you for making this first year, a really valuable learning experience, and for guiding me through the process. And I really appreciate that. So thank you very much. You're awesome.
Well, I'd just like to say a couple of things, Chairperson Burrows, if that's okay.
Sure, please, go ahead.
Well, first and foremost, I really want to thank Kathy, for always being there. Sridhar, I hope you take advantage of, I had monthly meetings with Kathy. They were great opportunities to just talk about things and kick the tires and learn more. And, the great thing about Kathy and the whole group is there isn't a question they're not willing to take on or listen. They may not agree with you all the time, but that's part of a dialogue, and that makes everything great. Christy, you're a fantastic member of the team. You were always there. I needed something, or I wanted something, or I needed to talk to somebody, and you were always the go-to person. So Sridhar, don't be afraid to avail yourself of her great skills. The rest of the commissioners, I'm honored to serve with all of you. Nobody on this commission that isn't here really trying to do the best for the community. You know, we were very fortunate. I was very fortunate to be part of the back end of the strategic plan. But that plan started 2 years ago, and Commissioner Dorlich, you were the chairperson at that time, and you got it going. And so, you know, it's a team effort. And you know, unfortunately, we don't get to see all of the staff. You know, the monthly meetings where we get to at least see them in the chamber rooms. Now we get to only see their pictures on a video screen. But it is what it is, and we've got to learn to work through it. Commissioner Veros, you're going to have a fun year, and you're going to have a fun topic to deal with right out of the box. So I know you'll do a great job, and I look forward to working with all of you, and thank you for your kind comments.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Okay, with that, item 4, public comment or written communication. So Kathy, just to make sure, do I need to read all that text or again? So at this time, those in the audience are encouraged to address the Parks and Community Services Commission on any item not already included in tonight's agenda. Members of the public who are participating via Zoom will have the opportunity to make comments to the Park and Community Services Commission live through the Zoom application. Comments should not exceed 3 minutes. Comments from the public.
We do not have any.
Thank you. Next item, approval of minutes. 5.1, Parks and Community Services Commission, regular meeting, June 10th, 2020, 7 p.m.
So moved.
Okay.
Thank you. Roll call vote, Commissioner Dorlich,
Yes.
Commissioner Lopez Lucy,
Yes.
Commissioner Osland,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Chair Veros,
Yes.
and Commissioner Birnbaum.
Yes.
Thank you.
Next, item 6, consent calendar. Consent calendar items are considered routine and are acted upon by the Parks and Community Services with a single action. Members of the audience wishing to provide public input may request that the Commission remove the item from the consent calendar. Any?
We do not have any.
So do we need to move this motion? Are we good?
Yes, and then we can move on to, there's nothing on the consent item, so move on to 7.1.
Item 7, common businesses. 7.1. Item 7.1, playground surfacing update. Please, Mr. Renix, go ahead and present. So Scott Renix from Public Works Division Manager is going to present us with playground surfacing update.
Well, good evening, Chair Veros, former Chair Birnbaum, fellow commissioners, and Director Hyman. Thank you so much for your time this evening. It's been a pleasure coming here this evening because I've not had the opportunity to present in front of the commission for over 3 years, so this is special to me. The topic tonight was precipitated by a resident asking about our choices of playground surfacing, not only in new parks, but in our renovated parks. So I've come here to give you an update on that. My experience with this topic goes back to 2014, when I had the pleasure of working with Commissioner Lopez Lucy and Commissioner Dorlich on the renovations out at Old Ranch Park and Richard Fahey Village Green. Then again with Commissioners Lopez Lucy, Dorlich, and former Chair Birnbaum on the Boone Acres renovation in 2017. In addition, I've had the pleasure of working with Chair Veros before he joined the commission in the renovation and the building of the cricket pitches at both Windermere Ranch and Gale Ranch middle schools. So once again, I appreciate your time this evening, and I'd like to share my screen and go through my presentation. Oops, let's see. We'll get it.
I can see that.
There we go. Can everyone see this?
Yes.
Once again, I'd like to give you some background on the update for playground surfacing. Okay. Why is it not moving? Alrighty, what happened here?
It looks like it's disappeared on our screens too, so you might need to close it and reboot it in the screen share.
My screen is locked up. I apologize.
Christy, do you have that available that you can pull it up for Scott? It's okay, Scott. I'm sure Christy can pull it up for you if that will.
It's worked fine all week while I've been rehearsing.
Always the case.
You're muted, Christy.
Mute. I have it. I just need to be able to share my screen. There we go. Now I can share it. Second. Okay. Let me bring this up. Okay, here we go. There we go.
Okay, go ahead, Scott.
Well, unfortunately, I cannot see it. So I will use my paper copy, and if I will ask Christy to change the screen so as we're going through, if that's okay.
Perfect.
Okay, as I said, I'm here to give you an update on our playground surfacing. Second slide, please. A little background. The Americans with Disability Act of 1990, the ADA, was enacted to disallow any discrimination against those with disabilities to equal opportunities. It was amended again on March 15th of 2012 by the Department of Justice and extended these standards to playground construction and renovations. ADA basically requires newly constructed and altered playgrounds to be accessible to people with disabilities, including children with special needs. In relation to the playground, the scope of ADA covers the entire playground, including accessibility, the height of the equipment, fall attenuation, and in particular, the surfacing. Next slide, please. The surfacing standards for every playground must conform to the following. Two criteria. One is the protective surfacing for ADA accessibility. And these testing results are prescribed by the American Society of Testing and Materials, known as ASTM. And this is to ensure the ease of traversing the surface while using mobility devices or wheelchairs to access the playground equipment. Secondly is the protective surfacing impact attenuation testing results and criteria, which is to reduce the risk of fall-related injuries in the use and the fall zones of the play equipment themselves, especially for life-threatening head injuries. Next slide, please. The two specific standards as presented and adopted by the DOJ are the ASTM 1951 is for accessibility, and ASTM 1292, which is for impact attenuation. And both of these criteria are not mutually exclusive. So any surface must meet and pass both of these tests to be acceptable for ADA requirements. Next slide, please. Our currently approved surfaces through ASTM are engineered wood fiber, as we all commonly know as FIBAR, which is a processed wood product that has rounded and blunt edges. And it settles as it's used and knits together and forms a semi-solid solid surface, which really is excellent for accessibility and also for fall attenuation. Next slide, please. The second approved surface is poured in place resilient paving, or what we call PIP. It's a rubber poured in place slurry that provides a cushioning surface that has many design potentials, as you'll see in the next couple of slides. It also is very easy to maintain. Next slide, please. And lastly, our other currently approved surface is synthetic turf with an underpadding. The underpadding is an extremely dense underpadding that provides both the impact attenuation, but also support for access. As with this turf product, it's got a very soft natural appearance and also is very easy to maintain. In March of 2012, the passing of the Department of Justice criteria, sand now became a non-compliant surface. Sand was used up to that point and was very compliant, and it was used predominantly through all our playground areas. Unfortunately, with this criteria, sand does not perform to ASTM 1951 any longer for accessibility. And although in a dry state, the sand itself might pass 1292 for impact attenuation, but as it becomes wet, as we all know, sand becomes more akin and more similar to concrete than soft sand. So with that being said, we've renovated a number of our playgrounds starting in 2012. And the first one I was involved with the commissioners, as I said earlier, was Old Ranch Park. Next slide, Kristen. And as you can see, Old Ranch Park had, when it was built originally, had the sand surface. And when we went to renovate it, we had to remove that sand and also bring not only the sand and the surface up to ADA compliance, but also the play equipment. Next slide, please. As you can see, we replaced the sand with the FIBAR, the engineered wood fiber, and also provided access with a poured in place pad for access to the play area. Upgraded the play equipment, added shade structure, and really spruced Old Ranch Park up. We did have one additional piece of playground equipment that was set aside. Next slide, please, Christy. And as you can see, this piece of equipment is at the west end of the park, past the playground, and it still, to this day, has the sand play area. It has a poured in place piece of resilient paving for access to that piece of equipment. And the reason we were allowed to keep this is that we did not make any changes to this. So it was basically grandfathered in, and we're able to keep the sand play area with the play equipment until the time comes when we do change the play equipment. So there is sand play available at Old Ranch. Next slide, please. In the same year, we renovated Richard Fahey Village Green. Next slide. And as you can see, much like Old Ranch Park, Richard Fahey Village Green had the old play equipment also with the same, at that time, the compliant sand play surfacing. But as we went through the renovation process, next slide, please. We not only saved some of the sand for a small play area, and also provided a couple of water tables for the children to play in, but we also provided the poured in place access to the play equipment and then surrounded the play area with FIBAR. Next slide, please. So as you can see, it really changed the whole look and feel of Richard Fahey Village Green. Next slide. The last man standing as far as sand surface play areas was Boone Acres. And we renovated that in 2017. Next slide, please. And of course, as you can see, it was compliant when it was built with the sand. And in between the play equipment, you could see a small area of the poured in place, which provided access to the sand play area. When we renovated, next slide, please. We retained a small area for continuous sand play. And then the remainder of the play area was renovated, the play equipment, the surfacing. Next slide, please. We also removed and replaced that poured in place surfacing between the play equipment. So it really came out really nice. Last but not least, Mill Creek Hollow. Next slide, please. Mill Creek Hollow did not have any sand. It's a very small, tucked away. I like it. It's a little gem. It's really a cute little playground, but it's at the back of Mill Creek Hollow. Next slide, please. And as you can see, it did not have sand or FIBAR. It had resilient paving tiles that was installed at the time. And once again, much like the sand at the time it was installed, they were ADA compliant. But over time, as you can see from this picture, and as the next slide, please, you can see over time, the resilient pavement shrunk, the seams were exposed, it lifted up, and kind of posed a safety issue for the playground. So we decided to do this renovation a little differently. Next slide, please. And as you can see, we installed the synthetic turf with the high density under padding. And it really, it's kind of, this playground is kind of stuck back in the corner there, and it's a little dark and dreary. And you can see how much that really improved the appearance. We replaced a couple pieces of the equipment, but I really think you'd enjoy going out to this little park and walking on that surface. It's almost like walking on a little trampoline, or as I can imagine, walking on the moon. You kind of bounce around on it. It's really kind of unique. Next slide, please. The last, or actually the first of the sand renovations we did was Athen Downs back in 2012. Next slide, please. And once again, as you can see, when it was built, the sand was the prevailing and ADA compliant surface for playgrounds. When we renovated it, next slide, please, with the poured in place in the entire playground area. And we also, all the play equipment was replaced. It became an all needs playground area. It's really another unique and a real gem in our city park system. It's got a lot of interactive features. It's got the poured in place and the wonderful the new play equipment. Next slide, please. As you can see, all the new play equipment was ADA, as is the surfacing. We even provided these beautiful sun toppers for shade over the play equipment. Next slide, please. With that being said, we do have many city parks that we're very proud of that have sand in them already and ready for play. One of them is Memorial Park. Next slide. And as you can see, much like Richard Fahey and Boone Acres, a sand area was provided for the playground with access to the playground itself right next to it. Next slide, please. Which contained all the FIBAR surfacing and also the poured in place ramp to get to the play area. Next slide, please. Another area with an existing plan area is a neat little park. It's Piccadilly Square out in Doherty Valley. It's a little park that has a dinosaur theme with a dinosaur walk and some unique features. Next slide, please. As you can see, this one also has a dedicated sand play area. And if you look at it from this angle, you wonder what's in the sand. That looks like we need more sand in there. But if you look at it a little closer, it's actually a fossil that is buried in the sand that is there to intrigue our budding archaeologists in the city. Next slide, please. And as you can see also, Piccadilly has a ramp with the poured in place that goes to the ADA approved FIBAR surfacing. Last and not least is our beautiful Rancho San Ramon Park out in Doherty Valley. Next slide, please. And as you can see, it's a huge park. It's very well used, and we have a wonderful two-tiered sand play area that has some beautiful crepe myrtle multi-trees in the center for some shade in the summertime. And it's right adjacent to all the play equipment and the park itself. Next slide, please. And as with the other parks, there's access of all the surrounding sidewalks and walkways with the poured in place into the FIBAR, into the ADA compliant equipment also. So as you can see, we have numerous parks throughout the city that do have sand play area, and they all conform to ADA for surfacing, for the impact attenuation and accessibility. So I'll take any questions or comments at this time if you have them. Nope.
I don't have a question, but I just remember when we were at the Fahey Park, the people, the homeowners around that were so upset with us that we were taking away the sand because they just wanted the sand and wanted the sand. So it was something that we had to show them that we would have a play area, but it was going to be better for them. So I remember that very vividly.
Yes. Yes, they really were upset about that. But once again, with the passage from the Department of Justice, any work on any playground as far as renovation, if you renovate anything or bring it up to ADA compliance, you've got to bring everything up. And unfortunately or unfortunately, the sand was no longer compliant at that time.
Right.
Kathy, we have someone from the audience that would like to speak on this.
Oh, okay.
When do you want to do that?
Oh,
I had my hand up, but we can go to the audience first.
yeah. Do we have any audience?
We do. Would you like to open it for public comment?
Yes, please open for public comment.
Thank you. We have Miles.
Yes, I'm here. I don't know if you can see me or not. Is he?
No, we cannot.
You cannot? Okay. Anyway, I was the fellow who showed up at the February 20th or 12th meeting and raised a comment about what happened to the sand in our parks. So I actually have about 4 questions for Scott. And hopefully they won't go over the time limit. But the first one is that, just for my understanding, you mentioned the grandfather provision. And so that led me to think that all of the previous sand parks would have been grandfathered in. But what caused the removal of the sand was the renovation of the parks. Is that correct?
Well, I think you've kind of confused the term there, Miles. When I mentioned grandfathering in, I mentioned that in reference to the play equipment up at Old Ranch. It's a standalone piece of equipment, and we did no renovation at all to that piece of equipment. So that piece of equipment nor the sand play area needed to be changed out. Unlike the rest of the playground area, when we went into reconfigure the playground itself as far as the equipment, the walkways, the poured in place, and the access. As I say, that triggers everything. Yeah, that triggers that everything needs to be brought into compliance at that point. So they're 2 separate areas. If we had done nothing to any of these parks, we would not have to have changed out the sand. But when we did renovations to any part of it, that's what triggered the changing removal of the sand.
Okay, so that leads to the next question is, what was behind the renovation?
It was basically the age of the park, the safety of the park, and there were components in the park, as with the changing of the rules for the surfacing. There were rules as far as gaps between pieces of equipment, the age, inability to get replacement parts for the structures. So we had to go in and replace a lot of the structures. So that's what precipitated the renovations of those parks.
And those replacements were required by law, or?
Well, they were required to keep the playground safe.
I see.
And when we went into remove the portions that were not safe, that's what triggered bringing the entire playground up to ADA standards.
Right. Okay. So I understand that. Then, one of the, I visited all of the parks, by the way, except for the one with the artificial turf. And I'll have to take a look at that sometime. But one of the key advantages of sand is that the sand surface itself becomes part of the play equipment. And if any of you had, well, many of you have kids, I'm sure, but once they get into the sand and you add a little water, then they can be occupied for hours. And is there any surface that is comparable to that?
As far as compliant surface? Not to sand. As I think I explained earlier, that sand is no longer compliant for the reasons it meets neither the criteria from ASTM for accessibility And once, if it, in the middle of our winter, if it's raining out and the sand becomes wet as it would, the surface itself would not pass the fall attenuation criteria either at that point.
Right, I
So-
understand all of that. It's just that one of the things about all these other surfaces is that they're not conducive to play. And that is, to me, a huge negative. And it is the principal advantage of sand is that it is conducive to play and it is a playground. It is not I don't know, it's not a gym, it's a playground. And so that's the thing that, I have the real difficulty with in all of these changes is that the way it's changed the playground is that it's not really a playground anymore. It's a place where the kids go and they bounce along on the rubberized surface or, skid along on the wood chips to the equipment, and they spend a few minutes on the equipment and that's it. They head out. Anyway, my next question is that if there was no equipment, would the surface be an issue?
Are you saying just a large sand area with no?
Correct. With no equipment.
Well, we have numerous volleyball courts throughout the city that have large sand areas that they are also volleyball courts. But I'm sorry, I don't really understand your question. I guess yes, sand would be fine on its own, but then again, it doesn't provide accessibility for anybody in a mobility device. So if they wanted to access it, they wouldn't be able to access it. But being that there's no equipment, I'm sure you could have just a large sand area, yes.
Okay.
But as you can see, I tried to provide you with some background also that we have numerous parks throughout the city that have sand available for our patrons to go to and enjoy.
Yes, and I visited all of them, and to be quite honest with you, none of them are very inviting. And I did not see any kids playing in the demarcated sand areas, nor were they using the sand tables. And so that was kind of a dead giveaway to me that this was something that really wasn't serving its purpose. But in any case, what is kind of the going forward plan, kind of, Scott? Is it just business as usual going forward, or are we looking at other options?
Well, as other options become available and they pass both criteria, absolutely. But there's always a budget portion of any renovation we do. But we have no playgrounds currently. All our playgrounds are currently up to ADA specifications, and we have none within the next few years that are slated to be renovated.
Okay, those are all my questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Christy, anyone else for public comment?
No, we have no one else. Thank you.
Thank you. So commissioners?
I have my hand raised.
Yeah, please go ahead, Commissioner
Oh,
Dongre.
okay, all right. So Scott, thanks so much. It's always a pleasure to work with you on the renovations and the upgrades. You answered one question. My question was whether any other parks that were currently on the list for consideration for redesign or upgrades. So there's none currently that we're looking at.
I'd say, Commissioner Durlich, none in the next 3 to 5 years, no.
Okay, super. And I guess one of the things we miss is that probably most of us on the commission here, our lives changed when we fell on our playgrounds when we were growing up many times and made us the people that we are. So hopefully this will avoid that for the youth today.
Thank you, Commissioner Dongre. Okay, next, Commissioner Roberts, please.
Yes, thank you. Thanks, Scott. It was a great presentation. I really like the inclusiveness that the city is taking to, meet those ADA standards. So I think that's great and wonderful. Just 2 questions. one of my favorite parks growing up in the city. Still today, even I'll even go drive there and park just to walk it, or when I visit my parents, is the Greenbelt. I was just there and I didn't notice if that was, if the workout areas along the Greenbelt are going to be replaced with something that is, because I'm thinking, if you are going to work out in those areas, someone could fall, especially if you're, older. I don't remember if those gravel areas in those workplaces were redone or if they're going to be in the future. But I would imagine that those little workout stations would want to have, you'd want to have the same sort of surface, right? Because people could fall while they're on that balance beam or if they're doing some exercise. So that would just be something I would think about if we haven't done that, and maybe if in the future we might want to do that, replacing, because I'm hoping to actually see that type of equipment in more parks, because I think that people do like to use that equipment, especially since we won't be, many people may not be going back to the gym in recent times, and so I think that for a growing senior population, having that type of those small little workout stations would be fantastic. But then having, of course, the surfacing that is safe in case you fall. So I think that would be great. Then my other question would be, you mentioned the turf, the artificial turf. I think that's awesome. A great sort of surfacing. You talked about there being sort of soft padding underneath. Now, what do you know what that's made of? Because I'm only referencing that, in the last several years, we've heard about, health scares with the use of that rubber underneath, the used tires essentially underneath that. And I'm just curious if that's what is being used. And I'm assuming not, but.
Actually, you're talking about the infill that's put over the top. The padding itself is much like a very high density urethane carpet padding, and it's underneath the artificial synthetic turf. And what you're speaking of is the old method was to use a rubber compound, and what it does is you put it on a surface and you work it in, and it has the fibers or the blades of grass. Actually, it helps them stand up. That's what that is for. We've now moved on to some new products. They're made of cork and other organic materials that we still use, and they're coated with a special material which keeps them embedded in the surface so they don't float away when it does get wet. But we've moved definitely away from the rubberized infill for these materials.
Great, good to know.
Mr. Burma?
I have one technical question to Christy. I don't see anywhere where I can raise my hand. Is it because you have me as still the chairperson?
Let's
Done. If you look at, do you see participants at the bottom of your screen?
Yeah.
If you click on that.
Yeah.
And then now to your right, do you see a list?
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. I did want to comment, Scott, on your presentation. I thought you did an excellent job. I thought you framed it very appropriately. You gave us the background. You gave us the logic behind why we're doing what we're doing. And then you gave us many examples of how we've modified our parks to comply with the ADA requirements, but also showing how we've maintained some areas where sand is still incorporated. So I think you did, this is one of the best presentations that I've seen in a long time, and I want to commend you on that.
Well, thank you very much. And I only wish I was able to have controlled the presentation. I apologize for what reason. I'm actually sitting in my office, so I have no excuse that I can blame it on my own Wi-Fi in my home, which I normally do. I'm sitting here in the office and I can't believe my computer is frozen up. I apologize for that, and I thank you for the kind words.
Anyone? Oh, Commissioner Lopez Lucy. You're on mute.
You're muted, Carol.
Okay, I'm mute. I've been to many of those parks since we've updated them, and I think they're wonderful. And I think you explained everything very, very good to answer the questions that we've gotten. And I just had a comment. I have taken my grandchildren to some of those areas. They love bouncing on that soft turf or whatever. And they've also played in the little areas of sand. So they've enjoyed that too. So I think we offer different areas for play for all the children. So I think we're doing a wonderful job, and commend you for keeping us up to date and having a good presentation. So thank you.
You're welcome.
So anybody else? No, okay. Scott, thank you very much for great presentation, and we are really glad as a community to have such an experienced person like you taking care of our parks. And I still remember walking with you into the parks and giving all those details. It's all that knowledge base definitely helps us to make our parks better. And coming to the point, like ADA, fantastic. That's a long, definitely it's a long due, and we need to get all our parks to be ADA compliant. That's a fantastic approach. And coming back to this, Commissioner Roberts' point about the rubber that was used, I received actually some emails sometime back when I was proposing for turf fields that the rubber that was used seems to be a carcinogenic material, and I think we are replacing that with silica. At least the new Tiffany Roberts, when we did the resurfacing, we replaced it with silica, and looks like that is more environmentally safe as well as health-wise it is safe. So thanks for looking into those each and every detail that need to be like making sure that our community residents are having a safe place to play and enjoy. And once again, thank you very much for a good presentation.
You're very welcome. Thank you so much for your time.
This is just a report, right? Kathy, there is nothing to move in this case. Thank you. Okay, next item.
It's 7.2, the Preserve Development Park naming. Would you like me to go ahead with that?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for helping me on that.
All right, so we're going to talk about park names again today. It has recommended that the Parks and Community Service Commission review the park name options selected by the Facilities Committee and finalize a name selection for the new park located in the Preserve Home Development. So just a little background, the park is 12.7 acres with an additional 0.5 acre rose garden. We'll have beautiful views of the San Ramon Valley. The park amenities include a large playground area, synthetic turf soccer field, synthetic turf baseball field, bocce court, tennis courts, basketball court, rose garden, walking paths, restroom, and shaded picnic areas. It's chock full of really fun activities for people. The park is slated to be complete in the summer of 2021, and the developer is in need of an approved park name for the park sign, as well as other directional signage for the new neighborhood. So the Parks and Community Services Facility Committee met on June 24th and requested that staff implement a community park naming process via the city website and city social media sites. The process provided an opportunity for interested citizens to submit potential names for the Preserve Development Park. It was a very short turnaround. However, we still received 425 names via that process. So the Facilities Committee met again on June 30th, reviewed the approved naming policy, which kind of guides how we name parks, and that was attached in your packet. They discussed all of the potential names that have been submitted by the public and recommended that the following 5 names be forwarded to the full Parks and Community Services Commission for final selection. So they were able to narrow 425 down to 5, and now we have the 5 for your consideration. The 5 names that they narrowed to were Scenic View Park, Faria Hills Park, Sunrise Ridge Park, Inspiration Park, and Uptown Park. I did some research and there are no parks locally with the proposed names. The closest being a Faria Hills annexation project in the city of Pittsburgh. It's an open space annexation, so it's not a name. There is a Faria Hills Park in the city of Woodland. That's a good ways away. And there's an Inspiration Park in the city of Fresno. There are several of the parks that are in Florida, Texas, New York. They use those names, but nothing local. The only other thing of note in regards to the name was the Totcon Park. Wikipedia lists the location of the Totcon tribe as it is a Native American name as at and surrounding present day Danville. It does not say remote specific, but it's at and surrounding. So I would suggest at this point you open the public comment, and after that begin with the facilities committee members so they can elaborate on why they particularly chose these names for the park. And ultimately it will be up to you to select the final name. We will need a motion, a second, and a voice vote. Chair
Thank you,
Burrows?
Jackie. Thank you. I don't see anyone from public comment raising their hands, but do we have any comments?
No, we do not.
Thank you. So that I think let's open up for our commissioners' comments or feedback. And I would like to start with our facilities chair, Commissioner Lopez Lucy, so that we can get some background on that. And then our facilities committee commissioner Ostland, so that we can get everyone will get some idea on why we picked these names. So please, Commissioner Lopez Lucy.
Okay, it was a hard task to narrow it down to 5 names from 400 and some names. But what we tried to think of is when you're up at the area at the park and looking around and everything, it is a scenic view that you have all over the city. And the other name, Faria Hills, we felt that that has been the development of the Faria, and so it is naturally, excuse me, on a hill. That was another reason we chose that one. Sunrise Ridge Park, we think, if I haven't ever been up there, but at the time it would be a beautiful sunrise and it's up on the hill, so it's sunny and nice. Inspiration Park, because it is such a lovely park that with everything in it, it is an inspiration to even go there and look at it, and it would be an inspiration to people going to the park. And the last name was a tribal name that I wasn't familiar with, but I know Chair Sadar brought that name up is because it was relating to a tribe, and I guess it was in the area, not particularly in San Ramon. But we came to those reasonings, I think, because a lot of the other names that were on the list were duplicates or people living of which we cannot name a park after, and if they were deceased, we have a certain procedure that we must follow. So we felt that these names related to the park the best to our ability. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Next, Commissioner Ostland, please go ahead.
Great, thank you. It's a beautiful space, and what's really special about it is when you get to the top of the hill, you can look south and you see the entire Tri-Valley. You see Bishop Ranch, you see the Livermore Hills, you see Pleasanton, and looking south and east, you will see the sunrise from the top of that ridge. It's beautifully lined with some gorgeous groves of oak trees. It's a special spot, and it's an area of San Ramon that gives you completely different vistas. I really like a couple of the names. I love the scenic view, but I especially love the Sunrise Ridge Park name because it does really kind of capture the only area in San Ramon that is high enough up that you would be able to catch a sunrise. The the process that we went through getting 400 plus park names was a huge task to go through. And we broke it down into different areas to kind of break it down. And thanks, Carol, for, kind of going through that whole way that we kind of really got it down to just 5 out of 425. But it's definitely a real special area of San Ramon, and it's very unique. And plus with all the amenities that are going to be there with the rose garden, the playgrounds, the soccer, the ball field, the walking paths, it's going to be very well used. So anyway, it's kind of how I feel about it. I think it's a special spot that offers all of us an opportunity to see the sunrise above it all in a park. So
Can I just say one more thing? When I had my report to the EDAC committee today, giving them all the updates, and then told them that we were going to name this park, and I listed the names. And it was interesting that the first 3 names that I gave them, they thought that they were all good. So that was kind of interesting.
Thank you. Commissioner Birnbaum.
Well, first of all, thank you guys for trying to work on a very challenging assignment. Picking a name and especially sorting through 400 alternatives is very daunting. So please don't take my comments as if I don't think you did a good job. I'm not to use one of the terms, I'm not inspired by any of the names. We don't get to name parks very often. We don't have parks of this size very often. And I just feel like rushing to pick a name is not what we ought to do with a 12.5 acre park that, we picked the name, it's stuck with that name for a long time. And I just think, I just think we need to take more time. It may be one of the 5 that we have is the name we come out with, but I just feel like, we were given a month to come up with a name. This park has been on schedule to be developed and brought online for a long time. And my feeling is we ought to take more time and just tell the developer, I'm sorry, but you're not going to get it today. You're going to get it, after we've had a process where we think that we've gone through and exhausted and come up with the best name possible. I'll lower my hand now.
Thanks. Thank you. Commissioner Dorick.
Yes, thank you so much. Just checking to make sure I'm off mute. Okay. Well, I would respectfully disagree with Commissioner Birnbaum. I think 425 names, and Kathy, if I could be clear, those came from citizens, residents?
It was a public process through our website.
Yeah, so this was a much more daunting task than the teen council to whittle it down from 425 to 5. I would have to agree. I looked at these and I went, Sunrise Ridge is just beautiful. It brings a picture into your mind. It brings a picture of a peaceful start of the day, of a beautiful vista. Inspiration Park, too close to areas in Dublin. There is Inspiration Drive in Dublin and that area up there. I would cast my vote into Sunrise Ridge Park, and I think there's the process. We could have another 425 names come in and another 425 names after that. I like that name, and I would put a motion out when asked to put that name out as the park name. It's beautiful. It brings in the surrounding areas. It's bucolic. It brings into the thoughts of the hills and a peaceful start of the day. So thank you, Facility Committee. And thanks for all the residents that came in with, with names.
Any other commissioners want to speak? Okay, thanks, commissioners, for your feedback. And as I'm a part of facilities committee, I was the Commissioner Lucy Lopez, as well as Lucy, as well as Commissioner Osman during the conversation. And there were like 425 names. We had to shortlist all of them. And I felt like our chair for facilities committee, Commissioner Lopez, was did a good job in giving us some guidance on that. And I feel at this point that with all our commitments, with necessary timelines and whatever the guidelines that we received, based on that, these were the names that we could able to shortlist. And as Commissioner Donald said, thanks to all our residents for taking out their time and providing these names, like 425, it's fantastic. Within, like, if I remember right, that was within a week, or maybe not even within a week, right? So, but then coming to Commissioner Birnbaum, like maybe the week time that we gave to the residents, maybe not enough to give that inspiration name for this one. But overall, with these 5 names, I would, at this point, I think we need to go for a vote, right? Just to make sure.
I don't know that everyone had a chance to speak their opinion, so you might want to make sure that all the commissioners have had a chance. I don't know if Scott wanted to say anything about any of the names that he liked better or worse.
Sure. Yeah. No. I thank you, Kathy. It's tough because when I first looked at the names, I wasn't like super excited about all the names, but I was curious about the excuse my pronunciation of it, the Tatkan. I went and looked it up. I didn't find a whole lot of information, but I did see that it was, I assumed that it was referencing the early founders, the Indians that came to the valley. So that kind of piqued my interest, and I thought, well, that'd be kind of a neat thing to do, is to name a park after the earliest Indians that settled here. But aside from that, I couldn't find a whole lot of information. I know that I guess there's a trail in the Danville area that's named after that. So it's, I guess someone's done some research to find out that that's a real name. So if there was enough information out there to say that this is true and correct historical information here, I would probably vote towards that name. But it sounds like there might be a consensus around the Sunrise Ridge. That was my second choice. I think that I've been up there. It's gorgeous up there. I've been up there actually in the morning, early morning. I've been up there in the evening, and in the middle of the day. And all 3 times the sun, it was just beautiful up there. And so that to me would make sense as a name. But at the same time, I do want to, with all due respect to all the planning and the work that was around all those names, I have to agree a little bit with Commissioner Birnbaum, just in that all the names. I mean, I wasn't totally excited about it when I saw all the names, and we are picking something that's going to hopefully last hundreds of years from now, right? So if these are the names, these are the names, but. If there is a situation where we can, put in a couple more, minutes or a few more days of deciding, I'd be for that as well. But again, if these are the names and we need to pick, I'd probably go with my first choice would be the Tatkan name, assuming that is true evidence and of historical information there, or it's Sunrise Ridge Park. That was my analysis on it. So. Thanks, Kathy.
Thanks.
Robert.
Anyone else? Okay, Commissioner Donald, please go ahead.
Well, 2 things. It's actually a Native American name, not an Indian name. If it was an Indian name, perhaps we'd name it Raja or Mara.
I just referenced Indian, because that's what came up on the Google searches that I did. reference
I
as
understand.
early as-
I understand. But also they were more indigenous to the Danville area than to the San Ramon area from what I've seen. So it wouldn't be something, specific to the San Ramon history. It would be more to the Valley history. So I think that's one thing there.
Right, and you're right. It did mention the San Ramon Valley when I looked. It wasn't anything specific other than the San Ramon Valley. So
Yeah, so that's one of the they belong to San Ramon Valley at that time. So that's one of the reason I felt like this is because the park is within the San Ramon Valley, and it is more like a tribute to the Native Indians for to give that name. That's what one of the reason I wanted to add that to the list. And we already have one name with the Suyan Park, that is also Suyan is another tribe who are living in this San Ramon Valley. So we have one park in within the Doughty Valley. And as far as the historical accounts, I mean, I read on the Google pretty much. The same thing like Commissioner Roberts, it just trickled my mind when even I read about Suyan Park. I learned all of that about the history actually from that park. When I saw that name of the park, Suyan, what does it mean? So let me go and then I read about it. So okay, so I see Commissioner Birnbaum, please go ahead.
Kathy, what would happen if we delayed this decision for a month and tried to look for additional ideas? How critical is it that you get a decision this month at this meeting?
Well, it's not a be all and end all must be. I mean, the developer would like it because they want to get their signage going and they have other signage in the community that they're making. So there is a point to getting it done. But if you collectively want to send it back to the facilities committee and reopen the naming collection, that can be done. They would just need to continue to meet, because it's the facilities committee by our policies process to select a process and then recommend a name or names forward to your group.
Well, I don't want to slow the process down just to slow the process down. Okay. I mean, if we're going to delay it a month, and let's just say if we have to have a process that will give us something different at the next meeting other than the 5 names that we have. Okay. So I'm not inclined to be an obstructionist. It's just, I really feel that if we could, maybe do a little more research. I mean, naming it after, maybe some of the indigenous people living in this area, doing some research on truly who that might be something we want to do. I don't know. There are several people in our community that have done extensive research on, our history here, and maybe they might be able to give us some input on potential names. But again, if there isn't a consensus on the commission to keep looking for another name, then yeah, we probably ought to go ahead and vote.
Thank you. Commissioner Lopez Lucy?
Yes, I understand your viewpoint, Don, but I would have to disagree because after 425 names going through there, you have to eliminate a lot because of the reasoning that we can't name a park after people and deceased people. And some of the names were just funny names or whatever. And I think the committee, the facilities commission, the 3 of us felt that these were the best names that we came up with. And I think if you just put it out again, I think you're just going to get more and more names. And I think it will just get more confused. And I'm not sure that we'll ever come up with a name that suits everyone. But
well, and I wouldn't suggest that. I'm not suggesting that we go back out and ask for another 400 names and sort through it. I mean, is there a process that we want to look at to try to find a name that is appropriate based on a historical aspect of that piece of property.
Commissioner Dolrick,
Is it time for a motion?
just to make sure,
Well, I can make a motion and then we can discuss the motion.
It's true.
okay,
Yeah, so I'll make a motion that we name the park at Faria Sunrise Ridge Park, and I so move.
Now say that again, please.
I move that the naming of the park in Faria is Sunrise Ridge Park, and I so move.
anybody to second?
I'll second it.
Okay, let's open for voting.
So you go to discussion and then you go to vote.
Okay, so discussion, any further discussion on this? Okay, Commissioner Osler.
I did quite try to do a lot of research on that area about families, indigenous people, and I really couldn't find a lot. But I do like what you're suggesting, Dawn, of maybe tapping into our historic resources here. That's a possibility. I couldn't find a lot on my own, but that might be worth taking a little extra time.
Commissioner Birnbaum.
Yeah, we have a couple of people in the community that have a lot of understanding of the history of the San Ramon Valley. I don't know whether it would be worthwhile tapping into them and asking them. Again, we don't get to name parks very often. I want to make sure that we pick the right name. Commissioner Dorlich, that the name you propose might be a great name. Okay. Again, we don't get to name parks very often, and I want to make sure that we've done our due diligence.
Okay, well, I guess I don't know how, Kathy, how was the naming contest, put out? Was it advertised? Was it on the city website? Was it, did it have public notice? We did get 425 entries and suggestions.
So just
So
to make sure that 425, there were a lot of duplicates in that. And also the same users were putting a lot of this duplicate things. I just want to make sure you know that.
So
Well, I would assume that, but that means maybe they had some enthusiasm and they did some research and they were answering the call. I'm sure it's not 425 discrete users, but there were 425 discrete suggestions.
Those were not 425 unique names. Most of them were duplicate names.
Well, then there was some consensus among the residents for a name, I guess, huh?
Well, I don't think, I would have to disagree there. I don't think that half of them were, I would say, maybe there were at the most a quarter of the same, but there were several names of different places or different people. But there again, we have rules and regulations to follow. And they had a week, wasn't it, Kathy, to do this? Yes. And so it was put on the website and everyone had an opportunity.
So I might just follow with a little procedural. So you do have an open motion on the floor in a second. So you're going to need to vote on that. The one thing per our own naming policy, which is attached in your packet, it is a public process that we go through. So if we want to go out for additional names, then that's would be the appropriate step. It wouldn't just be staff doing research. We would go out and hopefully could get some of those people you're speaking of, Dawn, to participate.
As per your suggestion, we'll go with open motion. So when you say, just guide me here for, this is first time we had something like this kind of conversation. So is somebody from commission need to do the open?
Well, no, we have a first and we have a second. So then we would go ahead and call to a vote and Christy would do a roll call vote.
Okay, sounds good. So please go ahead, roll call vote.
Thank you. For Sunrise Ridge Park, Commissioner Dorlick,
Yes.
Commissioner Lopez Lucy,
Yes,
Commissioner Ostland,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts,
I'll abstain if that means we can spend more time on it. Or would that be a no?
not necessarily.
No, okay.
Commissioner Birnbaum,
No,
Chair Veros.
So I think I will go with the idea of Commissioner Birnbaum about going back and getting a better research on this naming. So that's like abstain or no?
It'd have to be a no.
It would be
All
a
right.
no.
It would be a no.
So it's 3-3.
So you're tied up again. This is why they're,
so Kathy.
Kelly,
Kathy,
where are you?
So Kathy, I mean, you know, there are people like Beverly Lane who has a history of the valley, who might be able to give us some idea. We have a historian and somebody who's in our government who might be able to give us some ideas. And then we can open it back up, and then, you know, at the next meeting, if there's no new names in that, I will happily vote for whatever name is brought forward by the group.
I kind of like that idea. So
I think someone would need to make another motion, since that one is tied up at this point in time, in order to state that and see if we can get a majority.
So I would move that we delay the vote for 1 month, open it back up, because I believe we have to open it back up to the public, correct? And that we contact certain historical individuals and ask for their input on whether that piece of property has some historical name or individual that might be appropriate for naming that park after.
Just a point of order. I don't think you meant historical individual, because that usually relates to somebody that has a significant part in history.
anyone to second?
Well,
Okay.
no, Commissioner Darlish has got a question. So Kathy,
Well, no, I think what you meant to say was somebody who has knowledge of the history of the area rather than a historical individual.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I gathered, I figured that's why I seconded. I assume that's what you meant, but.
Yes.
But we're not gonna ask Frederick Douglass.
No, we're not.
Okay.
Oh, we can go dig them up. You may not have a lot of an opinion.
Please continue with voting, please.
Okay, in favor of the delaying the vote, so we have Commissioner Dorlick,
Was there a second?
Yes, there
I
was.
by
second.
Roberts,
Okay, no.
Commissioner Lopez Lucy,
No,
Commissioner Ostland,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes,
He's second, right? Actually, Commissioner Roberts is second.
Commissioner Birnbaum,
Yes.
and Chair Veros.
Yes.
Okay, 4-2.
Right, thank you. So we will go ahead and we'll re-release the naming contest. And hopefully you all can reach out to some of the counterparts that you discussed and encourage them to provide some additional names. And you all can also provide names on that list so that we can reconvene the facilities committee prior to the next meeting and take a look at what other names may have been brought forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, commissioners, for all your feedback and your engagement. That's what make our commission great. Agreeing, disagreeing, and giving you the feedback. Thank you. So then, going to the next item, staff report 8.1, recreation program and community services report.
pardon me, I had a question on that before we go to the next item. I have my hand raised. I wanted to ask Kathy on that, and I asked this before, but maybe you don't have the name. The basketball court, I've been asked, is it lit in this park, or did you find out if it was not? It doesn't say some of these things, you say lighted pedestrian path or something, but on the basketball court, it didn't say whether it was had lights or not.
I believe it is lit. I am sorry, I did not double check that, so I'll make a note and make sure to confirm for certain, but I do believe it's lit.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so moving on to the recreation report. Hopefully you all got a chance to look at it. Lots of things going on. We are very busy despite there being a pandemic. So if you have any questions on the item, I'm happy to answer it.
Kathy, have you guys had any issues with any of the participants or the staff with COVID?
No, not so far. We've been doing the temperature checks in all of our programs. We've had a couple of, scares where you check the kid's temperature and it comes out too high. But usually the case, it's warm outside. They've been running around like the little enthusiastic kids they are because they're excited to go to camp. You take the temperature in 3 minutes and it's gone back down. So no, we haven't had any cases.
Good.
Any other questions? Okay, I see Commissioner Ostland, please go ahead.
Yes, I love the wishing tree. I had not heard of that. And I just think that's really special. I've got to go down and put my wish on that tree. I'm curious why we're going to end it August 7th. Is this just sort of a trial period, or is it?
Well, how we set it up is it's in a pot, so which is kind of nice. So we'll be able to use it from year to year if we want to, because they're getting a very decorative pot that it'll go in. Right now, we have our summer camp staff, so they're able to take care of getting the pencils and the pages and putting it out every day and putting it away at the end of the day. And it kind of focused on our summer season. So that's really why we just thought we would try it for that period of time and then, see what happens after that. So it's just a short-term project at this point.
Yeah, it's lovely. I also want to congratulate the Parks and Community Services staff for all that you've done for the senior community. I know there's been so much outreach and a lot of demand for meals and support and, touching base and calling and all the collaboration that you've had with the other departments and services. So thank you so much. I know this all hit us, out of the blue, and that's a very, vulnerable population that needed us right away. And you guys hit the ball out of the park. So thank you so much. Really
Thank you. I'll pass that on to the senior services staff. They'll appreciate it.
Yeah. That's all I have.
Commissioner Lopez Lucy.
Yes, I had a question on the reopening of the athletic fields, where you said opened it up on June 15th to co-sponsored user groups. I've had questions on that from other people. So what kind are they for little leagues or just what kind of type are they doing? Are they actually having lots of kids and everything, or kind of you can explain it more, because you said there was 4 of them and they have a 3-week increment to use it or whatever. Can you explain a little bit more?
Sure. Per the county health orders, we could not open the fields just to play games. So the playing of games between 2 different teams is not allowed. What is allowed is for youth only to gather in groups of 12 stable kids with the same leaders for a camp or a practice. They must stay in the same group for 3 weeks and they can't be involved in anything else. So in this way that kids were, stuck inside at home for all this time. During the summer, they could choose to enroll in a camp, or they could potentially choose to practice their little league or soccer with their group. A few of our co-sponsored groups elected to want to offer this summer camp or kind of a practice, not all of them. And so those are the groups that are mentioned in the report at this point, but no games are allowed. So if you do see anybody out there playing an actual game with more than 12 people, they could scrimmage. So you could do 6 and 6 of your group, but you could not play a game with two other teams.
Mhm.
And if they are doing that, then they will lose their permit. And so we have building attendants out now, checking the fields, double checking that the agreements are being met, double checking that all the safety standards are in place, and doing education with the rest of the community. If there are people out there playing games that are not permitted, that they shouldn't be there. So I would encourage you, if you see people playing games, you can contact the police department. And if it's on a weekend, or you can contact our department. And if we've got someone available, we'll go out and talk to them during the day.
Okay, well, thank you. That helps explain it a lot more. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Bonbon.
Hey, Kathy, I drove by Memorial Park this morning when I was coming over to the city hall, and there was a large group on the little meadow out there playing soccer, and I don't think it was a city-sponsored group.
So if you see it, definitely call at the time. Part of the problem is knowing when and where the groups are. So if we can identify a pattern, then we'll send somebody out to educate and talk to them about what they can and cannot do. So at this point, it's just tough for us to catch them, which is why we've now scheduled building attendants at prime times to help us do that, because we're just really trying to get the word out to the community. Because like all of you, we want to make sure we keep everyone safe and follow the rules as best we can, so that we can hopefully keep those numbers low.
All right, I'll let you know.
Thank you.
Thanks, commissioners. So Kathy, on the question regarding the basketball hoops, right? So we do see a large number of kids playing in our parks at a time, and there are a lot of community residents, they raise their concern. And at one point we were talking about, is it possible to lock down those basketball hoops so to avoid the people using it? Or from our previous call, I think we thought that at least we should put some recommendations on how many people can be on that basketball court at a time. Something
Yeah,
like
I believe there should be signage there, and we can work with the signage again and see if that will help. I can definitely forward that to Public Services, because it's specifically the sports park up in Doherty Valley that you're talking about, that basketball court that you've seen.
That's right. Yeah, next to Tiffany Roberts. So that's where people are like really concerned about the huge groups of kids coming in.
I will forward that to Public Services and see what they can do to try and slow that down.
Sounds good. Thank you. Okay, with that, going to next item, 8.2, maintenance and operations report.
And that is put together by Public Services. I'm not sure if, we've still got Program Manager Brent Scroggs on the thing. So if you have any questions, I'm sure he could answer them for you.
Yes, commissioners, anybody want to raise their hand? Okay, I don't see any hands. So going to the next item, update on city council reports, item number 9.
Great. Thank you, Chair Rose. So I'm just going to add to what Kathy mentioned earlier in our meeting, which was the approval of resolution number 2020-064. The San Ramon Parks Trails Open Space and Recreation Master Plan, which had an overwhelming response. I'll just add that there seemed to be a lot of thanks and praise to Kathy and staff, to Stephanie Grigsby from Design Workshop, and there was special thanks to former Chair Birnbaum and the entire commission for all the hard work that everyone put into this plan over the last 2 years. I just have to say for myself, this started way before, I've been on the commission. But I do have to say that I got a chance to be involved in the focus groups as a representative from the walking district, along with Shelley early on. And, it's just great to see it come to fruition, and with all that hard work and all those meetings and public group meetings and to see where it's come. So it's really exciting. And I'm just happy to see it move through. There was one request I'll mention just really quickly. There was one request by a council member that if they're assuming that there will be some trees put on the trail, on the Ironhurst Trail, that the request was that trees be put on the west side versus the east side, based on shadowing, right? So the sun comes up in the east, as was mentioned, which it does. If we can have shadow in the middle of the day towards the evening, on coming from the west side, that would be more valuable to people that are on that path. So I would assume to agree with that. So that was one request, but I guess that assumes that there's only going to be one thing of trees on one side and not both. So I don't know. Both would be great. I think that would even be better. But if there were one side, I guess that's the request. So other than that, yeah, it's very exciting and looking forward to more. So that's my update.
Thank you, Commissioner Roberts. Next item, number 10, committee reports. We'll start with Commissioner Dolly.
Thank you. Arts Advisory Committee meeting met in June. It was the first meeting with in a couple of months via Zoom. We had the election of new officers for the committee, and then the annual report of the Arts in San Ramon by Erica Valentine. A lot of things that were happening, including the painting of the boxes. Even though the season was cut short with the art gallery and some of the performances, there was great information about that in the presenting series, and just the role that public art plays within the city, the utility boxes, even what was happening during the shelter in place, where our Familia family in Central Park were masked up. So a great example for caring within the community. And then there was a presentation that Adam Chow made regarding Parks and Community Services response, especially towards seniors, which we had at the similar report at the commission meeting last month as well. So there will be some issues regarding the new assignment of galleries to artists, because there'll be compensation from a time standpoint with the artists that did not have their space, though they had been chosen in the galleries for 2020. So there will be some reallocation, and that's generally the September meeting. So that was the Arts Advisory Committee meeting for June, and concludes my report.
Okay. Commissioner Osman.
So I attend the Senior Citizens Advisory Committee meeting, and this is their second one since shelter in place hit us. And so the second meeting, still trying to get bearings on, we have new members on the committee, and kind of setting the tone for the coming year. So the main focus of the discussion was on the goals for 2021. They're going to complete the business plan, review the senior outdoor equipment, they all have a plan to visit 4 seniors in the Bay Area, and with shelter in place and not able to actually go visit them. So they're going to be doing a little bit of a revised version of, taking a look at websites and making phone calls and things like that, rather than doing some insight face-to-face on-site meetings. Also, they have an on-site focus group that they like to run. And so they're revisiting how they're going to be handling that, probably having those virtually. And they're going to be reviewing our master plan, Parks and Community Services master plan, and transportation. So that's basically the focus of this last meeting, was kind of setting the tone for the coming year.
Thank
That's
you.
all I have. Mhm.
Thank you. Commissioner Bonma.
The Open Space Committee hasn't met since the last commission meeting. Our meeting is next Monday, so nothing to report.
Thank you. Commissioner Lopez Lucy.
Yes, I had the Zoom meeting today, or first I'll go with the Planning Commission studying that. And at their meeting for the past two times that they have met, they're still on their resolution for the Crow Canyon specific plan. And also it will be referred now to their one meeting in July that's coming up, July 21st and August 4th for working on that and finalizing that. They're working on with that includes the walking plan. And then they have also approved Camp Bow Wow. And that is before you go up to the Thera Preserve up there. So they've approved that. That's a daycare for dogs. And the other one, and then they had the last evening was the acceptance of the hotel. There is no name, they just accepted the general plan that has to go through other things, but there is no Sunset has not released what type of hotel. It will be a boutique hotel, but they did not have a name, specific name that they could give it at this time. So that was the highlights of those. And the EDAC meeting, of course, was this afternoon. And they went through for the introductions of all the new members. And I thought that Stephen did a really good job in explaining about the budget, because there was a lot of questions about the budget. He explained, you know, what we were down in sales tax and license fees and hotel tax. And I even got questioned about what kind of money was the parks bringing in. And I said, well, I don't think too much, because we couldn't charge a fee for having, you know, programs, you know, classes, or we couldn't rent the facility. So our budget wasn't very productive. But that was interesting. And I thought he explained it very well. There was questions on that also. And I think you will all want to know one of the things that I didn't know. As you know, Costco is in Danville. And of course, there's a story about that. We wanted it in San Ramon, but that didn't happen. But where Office Depot is now, I guess Office Depot is going out of business. And that building will be demolished. And that then now will become a Costco gas facility. They will have, I believe it was 16 pumps and 32, I guess, because you can do it 30, they'd be double 32 that cars can use 32 places. So that hasn't, they've just released that. That'll have to go through a lot of, you know, projects and go before the planning to get it really approved. But that was the new thing that's come up that was kind of everybody was shocked at. But that will bring sales tax to the city of San Ramon, because it will be in San Ramon. And I guess that would be about the highlights, because planning in parks, we gave our reports there. They did have a lot of questions, because some of the things that I would mention, they questioned me on. So thankfully I had most of the answers for them, but I just thought you would be interested, especially in one of the new developments in our city. So that concludes my report.
Thank you. Commissioner Roberts?
I believe I already went for the,
Oh, so that council reports is same as. Thank you. And from my side, a library committee meeting, we have it tomorrow. So there's nothing to report from library committee at this point. So with that, we'll move on to the next item. 11, commission member items. Please, do you want me to call or you can? Okay, let me start with okay, Commissioner Lopez Lucy.
No, I don't have anything for commission members. I should lower my, I don't want to do that. I guess lower my hand. No, I don't have anything.
Commissioner Roberts.
I guess if anyone could just reach out to Shelley and say, look, how lost we are without you, right? We couldn't make a decision without you today. So so if anyone wants to tease her about that, that's the only thing I'll say.
Thank you. Commissioner Dalvik.
Nothing at this time. Thank you.
Commissioner Lopez Lucy.
Nothing.
Oh, this is like keep moving, right? So sorry. It's just like a cycle. So Commissioner Osland.
Nothing to add. Thank you.
Commissioner Birnbaum.
Pass.
I think I covered everyone. So anyone missing? All right. Okay. Okay, with that, I think we are done with the meeting. Thank you very much. So we'll adjourn the meeting at 8:57 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you, Shadar. Good job.